Polly sat alone at the kitchen table, her gaze fixed on the empty coffee cup before her. She dreaded the impending conversation with her husband, Fred, scheduled for today. Thankfully, their children were off at the neighbors for a sleepover, sparing them from the inevitable shouting match that lay ahead. Reflecting on how a bit of harmless flirting and casual lunches had spiraled out of control, Polly couldn't shake the feeling of guilt that weighed heavily on her shoulders. For over a month, she had sensed something amiss, but it wasn't until the latest test results that she knew she had to come clean to Fred. As she waited for him to return from his early morning errand to the store, apprehension gnawed at her. The sudden ring of the doorbell and the rumble of a large truck pulling into the driveway startled Polly. Unprepared for any visitors, she assumed it was just someone lost and seeking directions. "May I assist you?" Polly greeted, opening the door to the unexpected visitor. "Are you Polly Brown?" the man queried. "Yes, I am Polly Brown. How may I assist you?" she repeated, puzzled. "I have a work order to pack up your belongings and transport them to 815 Southwest 10th Avenue, the man informed her, thrusting a clipboard toward Polly as he signaled for his crew to begin unloading boxes from the truck. "There must be some mistake," Polly protested, handing back the paperwork. "I never initiated such an order." "Miss, I understand, but the order was placed by Mr. Fred Brown a week ago," he explained, pointing to Fred's signature at the bottom of the document. "My husband will be back shortly, and I'm certain he can resolve this misunderstanding," Polly insisted. "Mrs. Brown, I just departed from your husband 20 minutes ago, and he instructed me to give you this envelope if you caused any trouble," he stated, handing Polly a large manila envelope. "Now, if you wouldn't mind, could you please direct us to the master bedroom? We've only got an hour to wrap this up," he requested. Polly opened the envelope and glanced briefly at the single sheet of paper. In a barely audible voice, she instructed the workman, "First room at the top of the stairs, on the right." The men hurried upstairs, and for the next 40 minutes, they worked diligently, packing and hauling box after box to the truck parked in the driveway. Occasionally, they attempted to ask Polly questions, but she seemed mentally elsewhere, so they proceeded as best they could. Within 50 minutes, they announced their completion and readiness to depart. "I'll need your signature, Mrs. Brown," the lead workman requested. Polly hastily scrawled something at the bottom of the paper, and they swiftly exited. Exactly 10 minutes later, Polly's father arrived. "Darling," Harry said, observing his daughter's stunned expression. "Friend asked me to pick you up, figuring you might not be in a state to drive," he explained. "Your mother's waiting for us, and the movers are ready to drop off your belongings. We'll store everything in the garage for now and sort it out later," Harry informed Polly as he guided her out of the house. "This can't be happening," Polly muttered aloud as Harry assisted her into the car. "Where's Fred? If Fred were here, he could sort out this entire mess," she pondered silently. "He'd listen, wouldn't he?" Half an hour later, Fred returned to the house, accompanied by a locksmith. "Change all the locks, including the code on the garage door opener," he directed the locksmith. "Leave me 5 sets of keys, and ensure there's a deadbolt on the side garage door," he instructed, stepping into the now vacant home. Ascending the stairs, Fred found that the workers had done a commendable job, given the tight schedule he had imposed. Glancing at his watch, he realized he had only 15 minutes before the next truck arrived. Grabbing a couple of empty cartons, he completed the packing of the remaining items the movers had overlooked, including Polly's makeup and toiletries from their bathroom vanity. Carrying down the last 2 boxes, he noticed the arrival of the next truck. Fred greeted his sister Melissa as she entered with the movers. "Hey there," he said, pulling her into a hug. "Why don't you take the second bedroom on the left, next to the bathroom? It's much bigger than the spare room and has a walk-in closet," he suggested. "We can sort out the kids' things later." "Sure thing. What about Polly's car?" Melissa inquired. "Her dad is supposed to pick it up later tonight, after he's finished with the movers," Fred informed her. "Could you handle things here for a bit? I need to swing by the office for a minute. I'll grab pizzas for tonight, he added, heading towards the garage. No mushrooms, Melissa called after him, then turned to direct the movers on where to place everything. Right on time, Fred noted, glancing at his watch. From his car, Fred observed his 3 best friends engaged in a heated discussion with Simon, the co-worker of his wife, who didn't appear pleased. After about 5 minutes, Mike, one of the 3 men, approached Fred's parked car. He thought we were joking until I pulled out my knife, Mike recounted with a grin. Gave him 2 choices: leave within 24 hours or have an unfortunate accident with said knife, he finished, amusement evident in his tone. How you holding up, buddy? I'll be better tomorrow, Fred replied somberly. Never imagined dealing with anything like this, but I'll manage. He thanked Mike, mentioning he needed to head off, but would catch up with him later at the house. Picking up the copies of pictures and receipts dropped off by the investigator at his office on Friday afternoon, Fred knew their contents without needing to open them. They were for his lawyer's reference. Well, there goes $1,000. He lamented as he glanced at the invoice. After dropping the envelope at his lawyer's office, Fred grabbed 4 pizzas, a case of beer, and made his way home. Tonight called for total indulgence, as tomorrow he'd be a single parent, needing to set a new example, certainly not like the one his soon-to-be ex-wife had set. Upon his return, the moving truck had vanished and Melissa, along with a few friends, was busy setting up her bedroom. "Hey bro," she greeted Fred as he ascended the stairs. "Where's all the muscle you promised me?" she quipped. "They're wrapping up something for me, but they should be here in about an hour. Why don't we take a break and grab a bite to eat?" Fred suggested to Melissa and her friends. Mike and his companions finally arrived just before 4 o'clock, and by 7 o'clock, everyone was gathered, enjoying a few drinks and casual conversation. Everyone, that is, except Fred. Melissa eventually found him in the den, engrossed in old home movies. "We've got everything upstairs in my room, and everyone's finished eating. Is there anything I can get for you?" she asked. "Not right now, honey, but thanks for asking," Fred responded. "I just need some time alone, that's all." "Well, I'll be in the kitchen if you need anything," Melissa assured him, planting a kiss on the top of his head before closing the door. "I never saw it coming," Fred murmured to himself. "How could I have been so blind?" Just over a month ago, while paying bills online, Fred stumbled upon a charge for a checkup at the local clinic. "Han, did you go to the doctor a week ago?" He called out to his wife, who was in the kitchen preparing dinner. "I thought I had the flu and went in for a B12 shot," she yelled back. "Ridiculous rates," he muttered to himself as he examined the bill. $125 for a simple exam and a B12 shot, even after insurance. "I'll call them tomorrow. Maybe there's a mistake," he thought, though deep down he knew there wasn't. The following day, Fred dialed the clinic's billing department from his office. "Good morning. How can I assist you?" The receptionist answered. "Good morning. My wife, Polly Brown, visited your clinic 2 weeks ago, and I believe we were overcharged for her visit," he explained. "She only had a routine exam and a B12 shot, but we were billed $125, when it should have been no more than $45 after insurance," Fred replied curtly, ending the call. "Can you say heart attack? Why on earth was Polly getting a pregnancy test, especially considering Fred had undergone a vasectomy right after their second child? It didn't require a genius to piece together what might be going on." 10 minutes later, Fred found himself seated at his desk, leafing through the yellow pages in search of a private investigator. Until then, he had never doubted Polly's fidelity, but now, uncertainty gnawed at him. Fred had never anticipated the cost of having his wife surveilled. "She must be involved with someone from work," he confided in the PI. "She consistently returns home at the same time, and aside from occasional team-building seminars, she's always at the office. I need you to commence immediately, because I'm going insane. not knowing if she's been unfaithful, and I damn well need to know with whom. His next call was to Ben, a close friend who also worked in Polly's division. Ben, Fred Brown here, he began. I hate to ask, but I need to speak with you outside of work, if possible. Can we meet at Moe's after hours? Great, see you around 5:30, he arranged. Fred wasn't entirely certain how to broach the subject with Ben, but figured honesty, given their long-standing friendship, would be the most effective approach. As they sat sipping on Bud Lights, Fred broached the difficult topic. Ben, I've just discovered that Polly is cheating on me, and I suspect it's someone from her workplace, he confided. It seems to have been going on for a couple of months, and I need to identify the person. Ben was taken aback. No way, Fred. Polly would never do that to you. There must be some misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Ben. I have evidence. I just need to know who it is, Fred insisted. Fred, our company isn't that big, and I know most of the employees by their first names, Ben reassured him. Sure, there's the usual office banter, but nothing more than that. However, I have 2 colleagues owing me big favors, and they'll know if anything's up. Trust me, I'll reach out if I uncover anything. I'm sorry about Polly, he added sincerely. No more than I am, Fred responded quietly. The next 3 days were agonizing. Fred wrestled with the urge to confront Polly and demand answers, but at this juncture, it seemed futile. Their sex life, while not extraordinary, was satisfactory. They made love about twice a week, which seemed reasonable given their parental responsibilities. Yet Polly hadn't expressed any desire to explore new things in bed, and she continued to reject Fred's requests for certain intimate acts. Nothing had changed in that regard. One detail stuck in Fred's mind. Whenever Polly returned from her monthly seminars, they never engaged in intimacy that night. Perhaps it was mere coincidence, but Fred couldn't help but scrutinize every detail for anomalies. These seminars typically took place on Friday afternoons at the Best Western and lasted for around 2 hours, followed by a casual gathering for happy hour and snacks. On those evenings, Fred would take his kids out or visit his parents for dinner, ensuring they didn't return home until after 8 o'clock. He found himself questioning every aspect of his marriage, desperately searching for a motive behind Polly's infidelity. On Friday morning, Ben called with an update. If she's involved with someone at work, it's likely a new guy named Simon Turner. He joined last year, and there's talk that they've had lunch together a few times and have been spotted dancing during happy hour, he informed Fred. I know it's not concrete evidence, but it's the best lead I could find. I hope you two can work things out. Thanks for the intel, but I'm not holding out much hope, Fred replied somberly. He passed the information along to the private investigator Ben had recommended and then closed up shop, heading home. How was he supposed to play the role of the normal loving husband when all he wanted to do was kick Polly out and try to piece together his shattered life? The weekend proceeded with typical family activities: yard work, soccer practice, and a neighborhood barbecue on Sunday. Despite Polly's attempts to initiate intimacy on Saturday night, Fred made an excuse about an upset stomach and turned away, feigning sleep. Thankfully, Monday arrived, offering Fred respite from the turmoil at home. Work became his refuge, a place where he could focus and set his plans into motion. The final piece of the puzzle was initiating the divorce proceedings. He had already retained a lawyer and paid the retainer. Living in a no-fault state and both being employed, Fred sought an equitable 50-50 split with no spousal support. However, one non-negotiable demand was full custody of their 2 daughters. Polly's betrayal was monumental, and unless she agreed to his terms, he threatened to expose her infidelity to everyone she knew. Anticipating Polly's reaction, Fred obtained a restraining order, ensuring she couldn't come within 250 feet of the house, though she could still call the girls. By Tuesday, the private investigator had uncovered damning evidence. 2 motel room receipts from Best Western, registered under Simon's name, On the Friday seminar nights, surveillance photos depicted Polly and Simon arm in arm entering the room, with one capturing them kissing in the hallway. Fred declined to view the incriminating images, instructing the investigator to compile everything into a manila envelope and deliver it to his office. He expressed gratitude for the swift work and assured payment would be sent promptly. By the end of the eventful week, all arrangements had been made. The kids were scheduled for sleepovers on Friday and Saturday nights. Both sets of movers were booked. The locksmith was set to arrive by 2 o'clock, and the paperwork would be filed on Monday, served on Tuesday afternoon. Polly has no idea what's about to hit her, Fred mused, determined to maintain the element of surprise. Polly's story. Seated at the kitchen table, engulfed in self-pity, I was caught off guard when the movers arrived at the door. I instructed them to wait until Fred returned, but when he handed me the envelope, my heart sank. With a sinking feeling, I realized that Fred was aware of everything. It contained a copy of the pregnancy test I had taken at the clinic. Initially, I dismissed my symptoms as the flu, a common ailment circulating at the time. However, as days passed and the illness lingered without the usual body aches, unsettling thought crept into my mind. It was Carol's light-hearted remark, one morning, "Sounds like you're pregnant again, Polly," that planted the seed of possibility in my mind. Simon's arrival coincided with my 30th birthday, a milestone that left me feeling like an aging married woman. I assisted in his training, finding him to be pleasant, impeccably scented, and quite handsome. Despite our 5-year age gap, we shared similar tastes in music and a mutual love for Mexican cuisine. Our interactions escalated as we began meeting for lunches at the local Mexican restaurant and rendezvousing for drinks after our monthly seminars. One Friday evening during a team-building event, the music beckoned us to the dance floor. We swayed through 2 fast-paced songs before a slow melody began. I hadn't danced a slow dance with anyone since my marriage. It was Simon. It felt effortless. As we glided across the floor, a wave of warmth enveloped me, and I found solace in his embrace. Reluctantly, we returned to the group after the song ended, but the memory lingered. The evening grew warmer as we indulged in a couple more drinks, and soon I found myself on the road heading home, the memory of the dance and the undeniable chemistry lingering in my thoughts. I knew I should have ended it, but the time spent with Simon was too enjoyable to resist. Dancing and a few lunches seemed innocent enough, or so I convinced myself. It wasn't until the 4th Friday gathering that things took a turn. Our department received an award for being top producers, each of us rewarded with a $100 bonus. We decided to celebrate at the bar, and after a couple of hours, only 4 of us remained. I had indulged a bit too much and realized I needed coffee before attempting to drive home. Simon offered to accompany me. En route to the restaurant, I stumbled on a carpet, and Simon swiftly caught me before I hit the ground. Holding me by the waist and chest as he helped me upright, he asked, "Are you all right?" In a moment of impulse, I locked eyes with him and kissed him. It caught him off guard, but he responded almost instantly. After what felt like an eternity, I pulled back, my cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done that," I stammered, feeling mortified. "Please forgive me." "Don't worry about it, Polly," Simon reassured me with a chuckle. "Consider it your thanks for saving your life. Now let's get some coffee into you," he suggested, leading me into the restaurant. The following week, I kept my distance from Simon as much as possible. I made sure to be busy during lunchtime and avoided stopping by for happy hour the next Friday. It had been a terrible mistake, yet I couldn't shake the feeling of arousal every time I thought about being in Simon's arms. However, despite her resolution, 2 weeks later, Polly found herself back at happy hour, with Fred not expected back until around 8:30. She arranged to have dinner and drinks with a few of her colleagues. Curiously, everyone seemed to have excuses for leaving early, until it was just Polly and Simon remaining by 6:30. "Shall we grab something to eat?" Simon suggested to Polly. As the music began to play, Polly seized the opportunity and invited Simon to dance. To her surprise, the evening unfolded with 4 slow songs played consecutively, and they danced everyone. With each step, Polly felt her heart pounding against her chest, finding solace in Simon's embrace. Before she knew it, they found themselves in the backseat of Simon's car, where they indulged in everything but intercourse. Time slipped away, and it was almost 8 o'clock when they finally realized. Straightening her dress and hair, Polly exchanged one final kiss with Simon before heading to her car. Despite the gravity of her actions, Polly found herself devoid of shame. It wasn't until she reunited with her husband and children that the weight of her guilt began to settle in. That night, Fred desired her, but Polly couldn't bear to meet his gaze, let alone engage in intimacy. After a lengthy shower, she slipped into bed, seeking solace in Fred's embrace for the remainder of the night. Aware of the danger she was playing with, Polly couldn't resist the allure of her forbidden liaison. They began sneaking around during lunch breaks, the thrill of secrecy adding to the intensity of their encounters. A week later, Simon revealed that he had booked a room for Friday night at the Best Western, in anticipation of their rendezvous. We parted ways at the bar, agreeing to reconvene in the hotel corridor. "Are you sure about this?" Simon questioned, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "I'm not entirely certain, but let's not linger in the hallway," Polly replied, urgency creeping into her tone. Within moments of entering the room, their restraint dissolved, and they found themselves tearing off each other's clothes in a frenzy of desire. Polly returned home 45 minutes before Fred and the kids were due back. They met twice more before Polly fell ill, attributing it to what she thought was the flu. When Carol suggested she might be pregnant, panic set in, and Polly rushed to the doctor. She couldn't fathom the results indicating pregnancy. After all, Simon always used protection and Fred had undergone a vasectomy. As she stared at the test results, Polly realized she was in a dire situation, trapped in more ways than one. Sitting alone in the kitchen, she awaited Fred's return, knowing she had to break the news to him. Little did she know, her world was about to shatter into pieces. Fred sought retribution from both Polly and Simon. He demanded Simon leave town, never to return, so he wouldn't have to endure the sight of him again. As for Polly, Fred harbored a deep desire to see her suffer for tearing apart their once happy family. With his unmarried sister, Melissa, moving in to assist him in raising their 2 daughters, Fred faced the daunting task of navigating the complexities of female adolescence without a clue of where to begin. Despite the challenges ahead, Fred drew strength from the unwavering support of his parents, knowing that they would weather the storm together. On Sunday, Fred gathered his daughters and Melissa, gently explaining the turmoil between him and their mother. He reassured them that they could still see their mother whenever they wished, though she wouldn't be living with them anymore. Tears were shed, but a comforting bowl of ice cream helped soothe their emotions. By Tuesday, Polly had been served with divorce papers. Despite her persistent attempts to reach out, Fred remained resolute in his silence. Even Melissa's efforts to convey the finality of the situation fell on deaf ears. Fred took decisive action, canceling all shared financial arrangements and removing Polly from his insurance, 401, and other accounts. However, Fred allowed Polly to see the children on Wednesday. Melissa accompanied them to Polly's parents' house, providing a supportive presence during their visit. The next time Fred encountered Polly was during their meeting with the lawyers in the attorney's office, where the dissolution of their marriage would be legally formalized. Polly's lawyer launched into a series of demands, prompting Fred to rise and prepare to exit. "We've just begun. Where are you going?" the lawyer inquired. "I'll say this once," Fred replied in a low voice. "The terms stand as they are. Polly will have visitation rights, but physical custody will be mine. I refuse to subject my children to the birth of her illegitimate child conceived with another man. Challenge me on this or anything else, and I won't hesitate to expose the truth about my soon-to-be ex-wife. so I suggest you carefully consider your next move before speaking again." Following a brief recess to calm tensions, the proceedings resumed. Polly, tearfully, conceded to Fred's terms, and they all proceeded to sign the documents. "I'm truly sorry, Fred. I don't know how I allowed this to happen. I did love you," Polly sobbed. "I suppose not enough," Fred replied coolly. As he exited, Fred glanced back at Polly. "Since you conceived a child at a team-building seminar, perhaps you can claim it as a work-related injury and seek compensation," he remarked with a wry chuckle before walking away for the final time. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.